Well, good morning, all. I am here with my good friend Jeff Dix, our Chief Security Officer. I am Luis Alvarez, President and CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, and we are glad to have you here on our monthly meetup. We talk about primarily cybersecurity and compliance, but we do delve on different topics as we think that they're important to the community as a whole. Want to make sure that you stay informed and protected. We do these meetings every month on the last Friday of the month at 10 a.m. So please mark your calendars.
It's Thursday, Lois.
Did I say? What did I say?
You said Friday.
All right, because I wish it was Friday. By the way. That's what I wish it was. But no, it's Thursday. Yes, final Thursday of the month. Thanks for correcting me. We want to keep it fun and topical. We invite you to be part of the conversation, so please use the Q&A button if you have any questions or if you want to make any comments. Today we are going to talk about all the new privacy laws and compliance things that are happening in the United States this year, and there are a number of them that will be impacting most of us. We're going to talk about those, but first I want to get started with what's been in the news this week. We thought, if we remember back to when ChatGPT burst on the scene and what a disruption that was, it seems like old news now, but just this week we learned about DeepSeek, which is China's entry into the generative AI arena. And what really spooked a lot of people, in particular tech companies who are on the stock market, is the fact that DeepSeek, which is a Chinese company, claims that they've been able to produce a generative AI engine that's as good at or as good as or better than its competitors in the United States, including ChatGPT and Gemini and some of the other ones, for a fraction of the cost. So NVIDIA, which is really the chip maker powering the AI revolution, lost $600 billion of valuation in one day, which is the largest single drop in history. I didn't know you could drop 600 billion and still be in business, but apparently they did. And now there's all sorts of concerns coming up about DeepSeek and its use. So we just wanted to put a warning out there. Just like any generative AI engine that's open to the public, anytime you use it, you're contributing to its large language model. That's how it learns, by interacting with you. And so that information is recorded and really just made available to whoever is hosting the large language model. And in this case, it's a company that's based in China with servers in China. And so we caution you that if you want to poke around and play with it, feel free to do so. It's free. It's available publicly as apps that can be downloaded to your tablets and smartphones, and also a website. But be very cautious when you use it. Understand that whatever information you put into DeepSeek is going to be made publicly available, probably to not just the owners of the company, but to the Chinese government, because by law, the Chinese government has access to any information it wants without warrant or without any need to inform people ahead of time. So you are forewarned. So
yeah, DeepSeek is the Chinese government. So anything you put up there, any device you load it on, you may be giving your device information and personal information on that device and transferring it to Chinese data centers in China.
All right, well, let's move on to our topic du jour, which is the new privacy laws. And a number of states in the United States enacted new privacy laws effective the beginning of January. 7 new states, so there's now a total of 19 states that have some sort of privacy laws on the books. California being, first and foremost. We have some of the toughest consumer protection and privacy protections in the country, but every other state is starting to realize that they need to be able to help their consumers and protect their consumers to some extent, some more than others. But if you are if you're a company or an organization that has presence across the United States, be aware that there's a real good likelihood that you have to adhere to some of those privacy laws, so you got to get smart on them, and they're different. Every state is different. The Congress last year tried to get its act together and enact a federal law that would supersede all the state laws, so that you would have like a level playing field across the country.
Everything would be the same in common, right? Instead of having different rules of each state, because basically each state is going to have to accommodate the data privacy rules of anybody that accesses their systems, right? So if we got 17 different sets of rules as there are now in the 17 states, it's gonna be a mess for a while. So I think eventually the federal government will get its act together and have one standard for the country, and that would go a long way in making things a little more simplified.
Yeah, one example is, and this is not necessarily a privacy thing, but it is a consumer protection that goes into effect in California on July 1st, and that is, you know how you get all those free trials, like, hey, sign up for this app and use it free for 2 weeks, and then we'll start charging your credit card if you don't cancel it ahead of time. Well, in California, that's going to be illegal. In essence, what it means is that if your free trial ends before they can charge your credit card, they actually have to tell you, hey, we're about to charge your credit card. Are you okay with that? And you will have to affirmatively agree to have that charge after the trial ends, which is great for consumers. But if you're an international company or national company that is dealing across the country, it's going to be a little bit difficult to set up something that's just for California and not have it be the same for everybody else, right? So in essence, that's why they often say that whenever California sets up new rules and regulations that protects consumers, chances are it's going to be a nationwide impact, because it's just too cumbersome to do it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so the challenge for somebody who's trying to provide a software service on a trial basis is how do you identify with certainty where the consumer is? I mean, they're going to have a mechanism to, okay, there's IP addresses connecting to our software where we want to sell them and get them on the system. It could be that the person puts their name in, and their address and the state that they're in. That certainly is one way of collecting that, but they'd also probably want to verify by IP address, if possible, where that client is connecting to, so they know what rules apply for that consumer to their system. So it's going to cause a mess for a while until we get to a federal standard, I think. But we'll see. It'll be interesting for sure.
Something else that is going to go into effect, or actually went into effect late last year, and will impact a lot of folks here in the Central Coast and California, because we have a lot of government contractors, especially contractors that do work for the Department of Defense, is the CMMC rules finally were enacted and finalized. So you will start seeing language in government contracts, DoD, RFPs, and contracts as soon as the second half of this year. So if you are a DoD contractor and you have not already gone through the process of doing a level 1 or level 2 assessment, you might be behind the 8 ball, and you won't be able to bid on those contracts unless you have gone through that process. And Jeff, I know that the level 1 is a pretty, basic cyber hygiene, right? It's it's stuff that people should be doing anyway. But the level 2 is where it gets a little bit more complicated, because, well, a lot more complicated, because there's 110 different individual areas that you have to be 100% compliant with before you can sign off and say that, yes, I am level 2 ready.
Yeah, exactly. And previously, they would the government would allow what's called a POAM, a plan of action and maintenance. And with this new program and the new enforcement mechanisms, this program, they are not going to allow POAMs, any significant POAMs. If you're like close 99% compliant. They might give you an extension on an area to wrap up that area so that you can get your certification. And again, this is a certification program, which is completely new for the DoD and the government. So during that certification process, as you said, that there's 110 different areas that have to be squared away. And the government's not going to give you, or the cyber AV, which is the government's agent that's going to award these certifications, will not give you a certification until you are completely done. So that puts some teeth into the program, certainly, and it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. The big thing will be is as they implement and enforce the requirements, that the ecosystem, the actual auditors that are going to audit and award the certification, there's only 59 of them in the country right now. And then the whole infrastructure ecosystem that is been set up to help organizations get prepared for these audits, there's just not a whole lot there. This program's in its infancy. It just became an official program, like you said, on December 16th. And if people are going to scramble to try to find resources, one, to help them prepare for these audits, and then two, to get an auditor to come in and do the certification. And the people that help get ready for an audit have to be a completely different organization from the certifier. So you're going to be dealing with two different organizations, people that help you, which are referred to as RPs, registered practitioners, or registered practitioner organization, and then there's the actual auditors, which will be a separate entity. So it'll be interesting if people have this requirement and they do work with the Department of Defense. They are behind the 8 ball already, and there's going to be a scramble for resources to get the certifications done and do all the preparation work that needs to be done to be able to pass an audit.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we are an RPO and are available to help if you are a contractor and want to get more information about the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, which is what CMMC stands for. But you mentioned that there was 53 auditors.
59, they said. They mentioned on the update yesterday.
A typical audit, level 2 audit, takes a while. It's not something they walk in and get done in a week even. And the other side of that coin is that there's over 350,000 DoD contractors.
Exactly.
So if you do the math,
there's going to be a backlog and a log jam. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, we're partnered with a couple of auditing organizations, and they basically have told us they're full for the next 6 months, that they can't take on any new audits because they just don't have the resources.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be a challenge if you haven't already started the process. But if you want to talk about it, feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk with you and kind of give you some education around that. Another program that's been around for a while, HIPAA, right? The Health Insurance Portability Act, that's getting some teeth.
Finally.
What do you think about that? Yeah. This has been around for like 20-something years, and back in 2018, they added the cybersecurity piece. Before that, it was just all about protecting patient information, right? Which is important, but then they realized that now that all of these electronic medical record systems are in place, they really didn't have any rules around what kind of cybersecurity protections or security protections healthcare providers needed to take to protect those patient records. Because you can't just say make sure they're in a locked cabinet, right? Because there's no locked cabinet anymore.
Yeah.
For those patient
and the
records.
data could be in many places now.
Yeah.
It could be in your EMR. It could be in your file shares, which might be on the cloud. Data is everywhere, which drives cybersecurity professionals like myself and my team crazy, because the data is very difficult to protect when it resides in multiple places.
Yeah. So one of the things that they did in 2018 was they created these rules, but they were really kind of, think of them as soft rules. It's like best practices. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. But there wasn't really any sort of stick, right? They give you the carrot but not the stick to say, okay, if you don't follow the rules, you're gonna be fined. Well, the new rulemaking that was just released about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and goes into effect in about 2 months, will inject a lot of requirements into HIPAA around cybersecurity. Chief of them is the requirement that they do an annual, if you're a healthcare provider, that you do an annual security assessment that's documented, and you can do it internally if you have the talent. If not, you need to have a third party do it. You need to do things like validate your backups at least twice a year. You need to do vulnerability scans and penetration tests. All of these things that are, weren't in the rules before, but now are going to be in there. And we have healthcare professionals and healthcare organizations as clients, and we're talking to them about these new requirements and the need to get these things done. What do you think the impact is going to be just on healthcare, the healthcare industry, for smaller providers in particular?
Well, I think it's going to be good for them to at least have an annual assessment done. It's very important. I mean, we've had HIPAA for what you said 20 years, and the problem's not going away. The problem with the previous program is that the consequences were always after the fact, after a data breach, after tens of thousands of records being released. Then there's consequences for the provider. The government's going to come down very hard on them. There's a fine per record that's released, and these fines can be millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. So now that there's some at least there's more teeth to the program. But I think what may happen if the program like CMMC is successful for the Department of Defense, I think that you'll probably see some requirements for more auditing even in HIPAA. I think that would be the next step, the next level of enforcement of HIPAA is instead of requiring the annual assessment like you've described, is that healthcare organizations are going to have somewhat of a periodic audit to make sure that they're complying with the rules of HIPAA and they're doing everything that they need to do to secure their patients' data, because the situation is not improving. It's just the government is able to come in and fine organizations after the fact, after they've had a breach. We've got to get to the point where we really got to focus on preventing the breaches as best as we can up front, and making sure that everybody's following some good security, hygiene, and that they have some systems in place that will help mitigate a data breach and malicious activity by a threat actor. So I think that's probably where it's going.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I found interesting in reading the new rule that got published is that they're putting more responsibility on those healthcare organizations to ensure that their business associates, the vendors that they use, the people that might have access to those patient records themselves, are putting into place security practices to prevent breaches or a cyber incident from happening, because there's so many things that have happened in the last few years where it wasn't the healthcare, it wasn't the hospital or the clinic that was
the contractor
the source
or vendor, right?
It was a contractor or vendor.
That was the
right?
weak link.
Yeah. I mean, and that Change It, I think it was called, that breach that happened, I think it was 2 years ago now, really is still having an effect on the community. It's still impacting the healthcare industry in a way that you would hope would never happen, but it's still there, still lingering, and that's the problem with, if you don't validate that your vendors, the people that you're using to maybe get access to your data or store your data, if they're not doing the things that they need to do to be safe and secure, then your patient records that are your responsibilities are at risk.
Absolutely.
So what, you talked about these compliance things. What are some of the things that people can do to just, should be doing for good cyber hygiene? What's top of mind for you?
Well, top of mind is have endpoint data protection is important. The traditional antivirus that people have been using for 20 years kind of doesn't cut it. You need an endpoint detection and response system that has some automation in it, so that if that can possibly help detect when malicious stuff are going on your computer and actually stop it from occurring, rather than waiting for an alert to go to IT and IT to have to respond. You want more of an immediate response. So a modern EDR system is what we refer to as endpoint detection and response is critical. Traditional firewall is still really important. I think a lot of people have firewalls, but they never do external penetration testing or regular review of their firewall rules. That is really important because things change in an organization's environment, and the firewall rules should be adjusted to accommodate, to account for that. And just knowing that your perimeter is secure is a good way to help mitigate any threat actor from trying to come in through the firewall. What else? Certainly multi-factor authentication. I'm sorry, Go ahead.
MFA.
Yeah, MFA, the biggest thing that the biggest security incidents that my team deals with currently is still business email compromise incidents, where a threat actor gets control of a person's mailbox, and they certainly target C-level employees or managers of a company. They're able to get the username and password from the dark web or by brute force attack, and get control of that mailbox, where they can now pose as that person, steal their contacts, use it for phishing. So multi-factor authentication is the most effective thing you can put in place, which requires, we're all familiar now with pins, either SMS text pins to our phones. It's an additional thing we put in before we're allowed to access the system. We could also come via email. And the one thing that we have been finding recently, though, is MFA or multi-factor authentication is not 100%. There's ways to break through it. And the most common way right now is a man-in-the-middle attack, which threat actor inserts himself in between the user and the authentication service that they're using. And even with multi-factor authentication, they can compromise the mailboxes. So SMS texting of pins is becoming less and less secure for a number of reasons. One is I think a lot of people are aware that China has been breaking into our phone systems here in the United States. And if they can break in, others are probably breaking in as well, which means that they can probably see the contents of those SMS text messages that contain those personal identification numbers that are used as your multi-factor, and which means that basically they can grab that number and put it in the browser as they're trying to log in into your email or other services. So I think we're going to see SMS two-factor authentication disappearing. My bank is Bank of America, and they still use SMS text, which I'm surprised. But sometimes it takes a while to convert these systems to being more secure. There are some other systems of multi-factor authentication that are more secure, that can mitigate or remove and keep people from using that man-in-the-middle attack that has been being used currently to get around MFA specifically for business email compromise. So it's cybersecurity is a dynamic and ever-changing, changed on a daily basis. But so that's kind of the update for that. Also, on a lot of the cyber insurance questionnaires that we've been filling out on behalf of customers, we're seeing a lot more questions about incident response. At a minimum, cyber insurance companies or underwriters are looking for at least an organization to have a incident response plan, at least a written one, maybe in a Word document.
Yep.
I've started seeing more questions about, hey, okay, you've got a plan, great. Do you test it at least annually, like running a tabletop, doing a scenario and practicing your incident response plan so that it can be updated and changed and kept current, and that also the individuals in the organization are familiar with it and familiar with the process, at least like on an annual on an annual basis to practice those plans. So those are kind of the current things that I'm seeing. Getting to a secure MFA, I think, is super important. We're working on some new technology that will help that. I want to try to eliminate the BECs coming into my team for response, and that would be a great thing if we're able to do that. But something else will pop up in the future as well, though. But
oh yeah, I mean, it's I just was reading an article a couple of days ago talking about how cyber criminals are leveraging AI to do, all the homework that they used to do manually to do spear phishing attacks. And for folks that don't know, spear phishing is when a cyber gang decides to target a specific individual or a specific set of individuals, maybe the C level of an organization, and they want to learn everything there is to know about that organization's CEO or CFO or COO, so that they can impersonate that person and try to get, using social engineering, get other people to do bad things. And so the more that they know about that person, the more they're able to, pretend to be that person, to get the controller, for example, to send a check to an account that will be quickly wiped as soon as the money gets in there. Those sorts of things happen all the time. But now AI is allowing these cyber criminals to basically say, hey, go find out about Jeff Dix, the chief security officer at Alvarez Technology Group, and tell me everything there is to know about who he is, his family, his friends, what his education is, and where he went to school. Anything that I can do to fool somebody in the organization into having them believe that I'm him when I talk to them.
Yeah, they can even do deepfake videos with AI now too, right? So they can create a video of myself and send it to someone, and representing that that's really me and what I'm requesting or asking for. So yeah, very, very good points. Yeah, AI is pretty scary. It's going to make our job as cybersecurity professionals, it's already mission impossible, but it's going to make it even more challenging, because the phishing emails are going to be perfect. They're not going to be grammar issues. A lot of our email phishing systems that prevent phishing or take out the phishing emails from a mail store are, they have certain indicators of that we can use to detect that it's a phishing email, and can pull those out and the user never sees them. With AI, those phishing emails are going to be perfect English, and a lot of those markers that we use to filter out phishing email are not going to be there. Those emails are going to come right and get directly to the end user. Hopefully they'll be still suspicious enough to not click on anything or do anything that's being instructed in the email itself. But we'll see. It's going to be, things are going to get more difficult for sure.
Yeah. And as we come to the end of our session here, it's a good time to remind everybody that if you have access to your annual cybersecurity awareness training, take it. It's we always our clients know that at the beginning of the year we launch all their cybersecurity awareness training sessions, so that they can get a refresher on what the threats are out there today versus what they were last year when they took it. So if you have access to it, do me a favor and take it, and stay smart against those cyber criminals.
Yeah, I agree completely. And the system that we use for our clients refreshes in January. So hopefully all our clients are taking their training. We will start doing reports for our clients to let them know who's taken the training and who hasn't. And it's important to always keep that top of mind, right? Because it's easy to forget. And we want to have a culture of suspicion when you're dealing with email and things that are going on your computer system, so that hopefully to prevent something really bad from happening, like losing hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Today, we are missing our friend Anil Malwani. He is indisposed today, so just me and Jeff, the Jeff and Lewis show. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune in again at the end of February, the last Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. We look forward to seeing you then and there. Take care.
Bye, everybody.